Hello, all. My name's Cassie from Tiggerless Illustration, and this is week 4 talking about my art therapy session and my whole experiences with what I'm recovering from in my sessions, and just the amount of safety that I have felt dealing with those, I guess, hidden parts of myself. So, my weekly activity is joy without judgment. So I decided to do something really silly today to sort of, I guess, help myself do that. And I thought by being a little bit silly, it's going to help me, I guess, feel safe in having joy my own way without having to put judgment in how I express myself or how I have fun or how I like doing things. So I thought this is a way that's not going to harm anyone. I might look a bit silly, but I don't care. I really want to embody this sense of joy without worrying about how people are receiving me, I guess. So this week I came on. I'm actually feeling really good. I've had a really good week. I'm not having my nightmares. I'm sleeping really well. And I really didn't feel like I needed this today. I really felt like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a quick week. It's going to be a good week. I don't really have much to express. But then when you dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper, there's always something that's a little bit hidden. So this week is going to be a much lighter week for me. But it's still a very I guess empowering week for me, and there is a lot of self-discovery with this. So the first activity I did was just to feel into my body, like from head to toe, feel like what's going on there, what's happening within my body, and what's experiences I'm feeling in my body. So I was just feeling my whole body, breathing, letting it explore my whole body. Oh, and finding anything that wants to speak with me, any energy or feeling or image or story that comes up. And then I had to paint it. So this one, as you can see, I got the flower on my head, connection. So the flower on my head is the first thing I saw. It was like spinning around my head. I'm feeling happy. They came up in the drawing. I had a vest on me. I thought it was interesting. I drew a whale in my tummy because that didn't come up when I was feeling my body. Oh, but then I pictured blue streams trying to break through and reach the earth and that. So I tried to draw that with the connection through that, and everything else was through the drawing. And as you can see, I'm quite happy in that today. Some things I wasn't really sure about, but this is the story that came through my body today. Oh, so I'm still releasing a lot from the whole experience. So I guess working with this image will help as well. So I guess I just allowed that experience to happen. And then Gaia said, what was the strongest part to me, or what was the most surprising part, or what was the strongest part to me? And I said, I still feel heavy around here. Like I still feel like I have that vest there, but it's not worrying me. But I found another part that was interesting. So I have to stop saying sorry as often too. Is I had a whale in my tummy, and I have no idea because I've never had the vision of a whale in my tummy before. And even now, I'm not really sure what that whale in the tummy is. It's something new that's popped out. So I had a very long chat about my week and how it's going and how positive it was. And then I talked about my friend Rock, like my friend, how I finally met someone that I don't feel like I need to limit myself with. And it feels so good to be in her company. And I explained to her that most people I meet in my life, I sort of feel like I only can give so much or they give too much. There's that exchange that feels weird that I'm offering too much or not offering too much. And I sort of get a bit scared of the relationship and withdraw. because I get confused about how much I can give people, how much I can take from people, and it just gets too stressful for me. So a lot of my friendships I do withdraw from and don't give my full self to. But I was telling her, well, I can give my full self, but then I feel like I need to come back a bit in fear of judgment. But then I was telling her about my friend that I've just met and how excited I am because I feel like I'm not limited, like limited. The relationship actually flows, and I don't get that fear with this person of maybe I'm taking too much, or maybe I'm not giving enough, or maybe I'm giving too much, maybe that might overwhelm them. And I finally and I've told her how good it actually felt that I have a friendship like that at the moment. I haven't had that for such a long time, and it feels like really, really great to have a friendship like that. And she explained to me that having a friend like that, or feeling like that with a friendship, is really you integrating a new part of yourself into that friendship. So I really took what she said to heart. Sorry. And she asked me to sort of say what words come to mind when you think of this person, really embody this person, pretend that she's standing right next to you right now, and explain how this person makes you feel. And the words I wrote was hope, joy, expansion, possibility, life, faith, put joy again, progress, power, optimism, acceptance of self, life, wonderment. And so she said, choose the most powerful word. Then I said, probably joy and wonderment. So she said, put her hands like this. And she said, which one was the highest? And I instinctively went for wonderment. So I said, yeah, definitely wonderment. Um, She said, okay, when was the last time you actually felt that sense of wonderment? I said, well, the first time I can really remember was when I started university. I didn't really believe I was smart enough to go to university. I didn't think university was a possibility for me growing up. But then I got accepted, and then I had 3 years of just really exploring myself through my fine arts degree. And I said, probably then, because it's like that was the last time I felt like I didn't have to limit myself, that I could really play and experiment with myself, and people just allowed me to do it. It was really a good sense of achievement for me, and it was really fun. So then she said, any other time? I said, I've had a few like special friends that I could just be myself with, but I don't really get to see them very often anymore, and it's far in between of when I've had that time in my life. She goes, okay. Her judgment, I think she knew that there was more coming out. And I said, I can't remember before university, really, before I had that sense of wonderment in my life. And I said, maybe I did have, or maybe it was fleeting, because there was times when I felt like I was having fun. But I think at times when I was having fun, because I remember I came back, I remember my dad saying I could do art classes because I've always loved drawing. I've always loved art. I always just wanted to be an artist. And I remember my dad saying I could do art classes. And then I went to one, and felt like I was at home. And then next week, him telling me that it was too expensive, that I couldn't go to art classes anymore. And I felt disappointed because I had that joy. And I was really excited about something changing in my life, really excited. But then I felt disappointed because of some outside force just really taking that away from me. And then I guess from that point, it might have been other points as well, but from that point, I decided that joy and disappointment was on the same string or same path, and that I can't have joy without disappointment, which is logically, that seems like very impossible for me. But in my body, I still have that thought that anything I feel joyful has consequences, and I could definitely be disappointed in my joy. And then we look deeper into that by me writing a poem and seeing how the poem made me feel. The joy I noticed was connected with fear, that if I have joy, as a protection from fear. So pretending to be happy all the time for me was, or pretending to be joyful all the time protected me from being scared. And that's fair, but that's in a logical standpoint, that's not what I want joy to be for me. Is a protection from being afraid, to be honest. But then it sort of makes sense with all the patterns that I have. And with the disappointment, I sort of looked at it like judgment, that I would never, I didn't really have choices to say what was joyful for me when I was younger. So joy and disappointment is like a judgment for me. Like if I make the wrong choice to be happy, it's going to lead to disappointment. And that judgment is my disappointment of if I make the wrong decision in everything that brings me joy, there's going to be a price to pay. And that's a real heavy thing to have on my shoulder in my life, to think that every time I choose joy, that I have a price to pay. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one to feel this, but how often do we feel that our disappointment comes from our judgment of what's right to feel joyful and what's wrong to feel joyful, that if we waste money on something that brings us joy, we always have to pay the consequences. And mine started because I got happy about something I really wanted to do and I thought it was going to be life changing. But then the power of my father saying that you can't have that anymore led to so much, I guess, grief for me. But I probably didn't even think about it back then, or I haven't thought about this for such a long time. Like it hasn't been important to me. But when I think about my life, I really think before I move forward, I think about everyone and everything, and it's exhausting before I choose to have joy, or before I choose to do something that brings me joy. And the whole joy thing is such an exhausting experience to me. And so therefore I sort of run around trying to please everyone and give them joy before I even acknowledge my own joy. And to me, to actually say that to myself, it seems a little bit crazy. And I'm not the only one who does it, and it makes sense. Um, so I'll read the poems to you. And after I've told you how it made me feel, joy, let it be, baby. Joy, let it be alive. Joy, let it be heard. Joy, allow it to thrive. It is the lifeblood, that life force of soul. It's instinctive and never old. Let it in, my dear, and let it never fear. To me, this made me feel quite sad. And I almost cried when I read this to my therapist, because I thought, really, that's not what joy is. Joy shouldn't be a way of protecting me from feeling things or feeling sad. And I had to reflect back on all those times I pretended to feel joy just so I didn't have to feel, I guess, those more difficult emotions, and how I can hide in joy to sort of keep things away, or how I tried to keep myself happy all the time so I didn't have to be afraid. And it's kind of made me feel, it wasn't actually sad for myself, but I kind of felt sad for my inner child, that it had to experience that pattern for so long, and that I wasn't, I guess, in the knowing enough to sort of support her through that, and how much I've taken away from myself to not have fear in my life. And I probably would make very different choices now if I discovered that. And I'll read my disappointment one. Disappointment, it's on a small thread. It can turn out either way. It is never fed. One side it can create light in the dark, and the other side it can create light into dark. But it's also light in the dark. It is a scald on your soul. Be careful, it never can grow old. So it's just really showed me how much I can hold on to disappointment, and how long I have held on to disappointment. And it's not my disappointment only into myself, but the disappointment that I've had in my life, which is important. And I've used even disappointment as a protection thing for me. Um, and how I see it as a balance of scales. Like it's still that payment of what I do and how I choose to do it. And this really made me feel quite overwhelmed in the thought of how I use these emotions, and how, I guess, unbalanced they are, and how not authentic they are, because I want to try and be authentic. And it's important to me to be authentic, and it's important to me to be honest, and to really discover that I have these little protection things inside of me, just that they're not big and they didn't take a lot to, I guess, release. But since they were so small, they were hard to discover. So from here, the next part was to, I guess, see if there's anything happening in my body to that played out this pattern. It's like when I felt about joy, when I felt about disappointment, what I feel about judgment, and to see what judgment, like what story came through. So when I saw this for the first time, I felt like it was, sorry, out of control. And I felt sick and I felt like I was going to spew. And it was like felt very dizzy. And I saw a honey pot in my belly, but then it was full of honey, needed anything else. But then there was these little ants that were picking parts of my heart and soul and taking it back to this honey pot that was always already full. And I didn't know what that meant, but after feeling into it, I thought, I'm really selling parts of myself or giving parts of myself away just to have joy. And I asked myself, does this really, really need to happen anymore? Do I need to give myself away or give parts that I feel is important, to sacrifice my values, to sacrifice who I am just to have joy? And like this part of me was very stubborn. Like these ants in me were very stubborn. And even if I was saying, look, you can't do this to me, I want my heart back, I want my soul back, they still kept taking away from me. They still kept taking little parts away from my heart. And I actually felt the whole experience as well. So I sort of said, like, hey, this is how it is. Let's try renegotiation how we feel joy, because you can no longer keep taking my heart away. And this is where I had to be firm with myself. I said, there's no time to keep taking my heart away. There's no reason to keep taking my soul away. It's already full. There's more than you need. You've got to stop this. A lot of parts of me were stubborn, so it kind of felt like a union. There was a part of ants that sort of wanted to cooperate and wanted to do things a different way and saw what I was saying, but there's other parts of me that were saying, we're not dealing with this. We're still going to keep taking parts of you away for this. And I know that they were scared and that, but it's like, this can't happen anymore. This needs to be me. My heart needs to be full. My heart needs to be operating for this to happen correctly, for me to have joy the way we need to feel joy, the way that it's sustainable. This is not sustainable. There's only so much of this you can take. So I just basically said to them, like, I had to be really, really firm with these other ants. They weren't just going to take my wishy-washy crap. I basically had to say firm. It's like, if you don't like what is already in there or what I'm already offering, go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. I don't want this anymore. You can no longer take parts of me away just for me to take joy. And this was still very hard for me to release. It didn't happen straight away. And I had to call in some of my guides to help me with this as well. But then after time, they sort of just seen that I wasn't going to budge on this. And so they started to release outside my body. decided to go. And it took a little bit of time because I noticed it went from my heart, the feelings, into my throat. And I did a lot of burping to release this. But then I got to a stage where I felt good in my belly. And then when I knew it was set, I just had the picture of the honey pot. And I think there was a new queen starting in it. And I asked them if those ants didn't mind becoming bees and we could work together. And they were happy to evolve to the bees. And so after that, I felt like I was in a good place with this new understanding within my body, because a lot of art therapy is about talking to your body and the intelligence that comes through your body. Oh, I had to sort of rub my feet during this time too, because there's a lot of valves of releasing old ideology that I had. So I also pictured a lot of blue energy going through my feet to the earth, and a lot of blue energy just exhausting itself through my arms. Like I had exhaust from my arms, just because I was releasing so much built up energy because of this thing I held on to. It was very heavy for me to carry. And I didn't know that because I've been holding on to this for such a long time. And as I said, I'm going to be honest with you. This is happening for a long time. And my picture of my guide just fell down. This was one of my guides that helped me with it. I had a chat about my inner masculine. It sort of finds it hard for the world because I feel like the world sort of asks me to break through in its my old patterns, because everything that I did, I felt pressure to do everything in a very dramatic way, because that's how my father was, very dramatic, hear me sort of way. And I've had a lot of issues with that, like trying to be that loud, in your face sort of person that I thought I was meant to be, but I'm not that person. I'm more a gentle, nurturing person. And I really feel that behavior is a little bit grotesque for my standards. And I felt a lot of pressure coming from both sides, because I am a gentle person. I want to be gentle with every decision or everything that I decide to bring to this earth. But that's sort of going off a little bit. So I'll come back to the story. So once those ants settled, or those bees now, sorry, I'm still releasing a lot. I came back to the whale in my belly, and the whale didn't actually tell me a lot. It just sort of said insulation, love, insulation, love. So it wasn't really giving me much to work with. It's probably something I need to, I guess, work with in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure more of the story will unravel itself. But I just sort of pictured, I guess this is an intelligence in itself. I pictured that whale having enough room in my belly, because I felt like it was a good force for me, and giving enough room and space just to swim around with it, so it doesn't feel constricted, that it feels free and it feels like it's in a safe environment, in a way that could even, that whale could be me. And it could be even that release that I'm expanding myself, so I don't feel like I'm in a small bowl anymore. I'm not feeling restricted. I'm giving myself the room to sort of just swim around the way I need to. And so I can coexist, because I think my words was, maybe I'll give it the room so I can coexist with that whale. So the whale might manifest into something different in the next couple of days. I'm not sure, but that's the instinct that I had working with that whale. So after that discovery, I was asked to see what do I want to work through the week. And I said, well, I want to start learning how to discover joy without judgment. That's been a thing that I haven't experienced for a long time. So I want to experience joy without judgment. And I mean self-judgment here, not judgment from others. I mean without that self-judgment. And that's why I've got this pretty skin on me, because I just thought that's kind of cute. And also I want to represent the flower that I have there. So there's a two metaphors for that. And the other thing suggested that I have to write a story about joy. Just a story about joy, can be any format. And actually really got excited about that because I remembered writing stories as a little kid. So it's like I jumped on that and said, yeah, I'd love to write a story about joy. So that is my homework for this week. And you can see that there's a lot of things that came through that were quite heavy, but I think what came through today for me was something that I guess a lot of things, like a lot of people has experienced as adults. I think growing up, we had a lot of choices to make that weren't all always about joy, especially, I guess, the boomers. And I come from Generation X. We had to sort of really look towards a future that was going to be practical and sustainable. But now we're gone old, like not old, but we're growing up and realize that we have to make a living. And a lot of things that we were taught from a young age is no longer relevant. So I still think we have a lot of sorting out to do. And I think it's finally the time when we're allowed to say we can bring some joy to our work. We can bring some joy to our life with our choices. We do, even though our choices seem limited. And I don't think it's limited because of what's out there. I think it's limited because we're taught to be limited. We're taught that we had to go to university and be limited by the job we do our degree on. So after doing all that clearing, I just think like we don't have to be limited. We can find jobs that bring us joy. We can do things that bring us joy. And that judgment of what we should do and what we shouldn't do to experience joy is no longer relevant. I don't even think for myself, but I think as a humanity anymore, because jobs are changing. Jobs are changing for us to allow to us to bring more of ourselves into the world. We have to create our own opportunities, but it's not the way we're being taught to create our opportunities in this world. And this is just something to consider with the information age. And I think it is the information age, it is the communication age. It's time to really go searching for yourself and talking to yourself and talking to those around you and see how you can serve, I guess, the world in this new age. It's not like it was we were taught to anymore. It's really completely different. And I'm still adapting to that myself. So I will leave it there because I'm going off in a total tangent, but this is how light I feel. Like it's so light to feel that I can have joy and feel joy and just be joy without worrying about judgments. It's such a good feeling. It's such a light feeling. And I just really wanted to drive that forward for everyone. And I think it's only week 4. And what I like about art therapy so far, what I really think has honored me, and I've always felt like I was like a well prepared individual, like an individual always doing the right thing, an individual doing their best in life, but also being that individual and always being right for everyone. Because I think that's probably where I put my joy and my respect, is always being right for everyone. I'm starting to see how that's limited for me and how I've limited myself. And trying to be the right person has always been a protective, like I guess, protective pattern for me. Trying to be right all the time or trying to be the right fit all the time. And it's exhausting, very exhausting. I probably hit a lot of these issues inside my body, and I probably didn't want to face this because I thought it was going to be dramatic, too scary for me, too sad for me. But I have cried. Like every week, I've released lots of shit that I never really thought was there. As I said, I didn't know where this was going, and some weeks I shared some things that were quite personal with me. But I've been sad and I've been to the point of almost choking. I've had fallen to the bottom during this session. But I don't think it's been as bad as I had it in my mind. I didn't think it was as bad as I imagined it to be when I explored this. I felt like I've always been safe during this journey of exploring these darker emotions or unaccepted emotions about me. They haven't been as loud and as scary as I thought they were. And I have felt safe along the way. And I think this is what art therapy has given me within 4 weeks, is that safety that I really thought I needed. And that safety has existed within myself. And I found those safe places within myself where I can deal with my shit. And this has only been 4 weeks of art therapy for an hour. And imagine if this was in a world like available for people, especially those people who can't talk through their emotions or find it very difficult to talk through their emotions, or are like me and love shoving their emotions deep, deep down because they don't want people to know what's going on, because they don't want to be judged and they want to be safe. There's a lot of people like me out there. I'm just sort of being courageous at the moment and telling you that I am human. I am human, definitely human. And like last week, I had my teddy bear with me, and that's like my exercise last week, is to touch it and hold it close to me. And everything I've experienced through this is totally human, but it's a safe way of exploring that humanity in you, the loving and caring, nurturing parts, the ones that you love, but also those parts that are more vulnerable and are more afraid. You give them permission to actually come up and say, I need help, help me. And you don't keep pushing them down. You say, okay, we're safe now. We can bring this up. We can love this part of ourselves and bring it back to health. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing for everybody? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I'm glad I'm a little bit more optimistic this week. And I'm like hoping to be able to bring this to every session. But as I said, even if I have a bad session, I want to show you how human I am. And I want to show that this is expected. But even today, if this is just a results thing and just showing you that a week of processing things can bring so much hope, joy, and expansion, wouldn't that be wonderful? Anyway, love and light, Cassie. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Bye.